the station recognized with the most local Emmy Awards. You're watching KXTV Channel 10, Central Valley's #1 11 o'clock newscast.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We begin with a helicopter crash that set off a chain reaction of events. A pilot from Rockland and his passenger from Napa died when the chopper plunged into the American River near Weimar. The crash in turn knocked out power to thousands of mountain residents, and then it started a forest fire. News 10's George Warren shows us how it happened.
All afternoon, tankers dropped fire retardant. Helicopters dropped water. Battling a fire that began when this smaller helicopter clipped a set of high-voltage lines spanning the American River Canyon. The aircraft tumbled several hundred feet, with the tail landing there and the cockpit and main rotor over there. Several gold miners working along the river saw it happen.
Well, I watched the chopper coming upstream, and he hit the lines. There were a couple of loud bangs, and the chopper fell into two parts, and he crashed. Took me about 5 minutes to get to him, and I took pulses on each of the people, and they were both dead.
The miners have reason to watch low-flying aircraft in this canyon. This was not the first pilot who failed to see these power lines that are no thicker than a human finger. Some people along the river have even asked PG&E to mark the lines with those big orange balls that you see in some canyons.
But they just won't do it.
I wonder why.
Liability. If you put the balls up, you're saying that, well, if somebody hits it, it's your fault. So it's all liability.
That's what PG&E's told you?
Yeah, that's what they just told us.
Now, I talked to several people from PG&E tonight, and nobody seems to know anything about that liability issue. What they all pointed out, though, is this. PG&E is only legally required to mark power lines in major flyways, and with over 100,000 miles of power lines in California, the utility says it can't mark them all. Beth?
Along the river there, George, near Weimar, is it just a very little bit of power line that dips down into the canyon?
Yeah, in fact, if you're not looking, when we fly up there in Air 10, our pilot has us always looking for those telltale patches along the side of the canyon where the power lines are running down, but then they span a couple thousand feet across, and as I said, they're no thicker than your finger. And if you're not looking carefully, it's easy, as we've seen today, to fly right into one of those things.
Yeah, well, the question raised is a good one that we need to find an answer to. Thanks, George. Another helicopter crash has left race car driver Daveison in a coma tonight. Allison was piloting this helicopter when it slammed into the infield at the Talladega Speedway in Alabama. The 32-year-old suffered severe head injuries, a broken pelvis, and an injury to his lungs. Witnesses say the chopper hit a fence and then crashed upside down as it was taking off. Allison had just received clearance to fly helicopters yesterday. Again tonight, drama in two different high-profile murder trials. So we're going to begin with Eric Houston's trial in Napa and the riveting testimony as his defense got underway. A psychiatrist who treated Houston tells the jury that he believes that Houston was sexually molested and abused by former teacher Robert Brenz. The doctor went on to call Houston schizophrenic, and when Brenz flunked Houston, he says that was enough to set off the 21-year-old on the deadly shooting spree at Lyndhurst High.
Mr. Brenz apparently made a direct attempt to fondle him in the genitals the first time, which caused a significant, overwhelming reaction in Mr. Houston.
Eric Houston might testify in his own defense tomorrow. In Monterey, the trial of boarding house landlady Dorothea Puente is expected to go to the jury tomorrow. Lawyers for Puente wrapped up their closing arguments in just one day. That was today. The jurors heard defense attorney Kevin Climo describe Puente as a kind and caring landlord, not the mass murderer the prosecution has made her out to be.
I could look her in the eye and say, Dorothea Montalvo Puente, you're a thief. Doesn't make her a killer.
Puente has admitted cashing the Social Security checks belonging to her tenants. And the trial for accused murderer Elly Nessler starts tomorrow. She, of course, is the woman charged with shooting and killing her son's alleged molester, Daniel Driver, and that happened in a Sonora courtroom. Jury selection for the trial will begin in the morning, and we will bring you complete coverage as long as the trial continues. It seems almost every day there is another tragedy in our area that involves guns, and the calls for tighter limits on guns are growing louder, especially after gunman John Luigi Ferri used copycats of banned automatic weapons to kill 8 people and then himself at a San Francisco law firm this month. San Francisco police showed off the 9mm weapons he used, guns which can be purchased legally in California. Now, state lawmakers and Attorney General Dan Lundgren are trying to close the loopholes in the 1989 law that tried to ban assault weapons. The measure doesn't cover the copycats. There is also an effort to limit the magazines or clips that hold 15 rounds of ammunition. The one I'm showing you here looks like you can find it in any store. It holds 30 rounds, and it can, in fact, be bought at just about any gun shop. Now we want to hear from you on this issue. So here's your chance to call our Tell 10 poll. The question is, do you think more types of weapons should be banned in California? If your answer is yes, please call 1-800-499-KXTV. If your answer is no, the number is 1-800-649-KXTV. We will continue to repeat the numbers during this newscast, and we'll have results for you a little later on after Harry joins us for the weather. Now we're going to the situation in the Midwest along the Mississippi River. The flooding has now damaged or destroyed nearly 10,000 homes. At least 19 deaths are also being blamed on the rising waters. And tonight, the mayor in St. Louis is ordering emergency precautions. That's where Regina Blakely begins her wrap-up of this disaster.
Around 200 families in South St. Louis were repeating what many more had been forced to do upriver, leave their homes, their utilities cut off.
The key is people have got to understand this is a disaster that we're dealing with here. This is not a picnic. It is no fun. We're taking this very seriously. And in order to do that, we have to take the necessary precautions.
The normal is now abnormal. That was once the 9th hole of a St. Louis golf course. And that's an airport where the means of transportation is now a fishing boat.
Down around the maintenance building, that well house down there, it's, I'd say it's 4.5, 5 foot deep anyway.
The 23rd step is that one that's underwater there, off that landing right there. And you could see it yesterday when we were down here.
The story is the same up and down the Big River, and the problem isn't just the Mississippi. For example, in Des Moines, the Raccoon River spilled over its banks, shutting down the city's water system. Relief agencies were forced to search all over Nebraska for adequate water supplies. Vice President Al Gore surveyed what has become an economic disaster.
We care, and we are going to make certain there is the most forceful, best coordinated, most effective response to this disaster that our country has ever seen.
As bad as the story is upriver, it continues downriver. Here in Alton, Illinois, just north of St. Louis, the river is already 15 feet above flood stage, and it's not expected to crest until sometime this weekend. Regina Blakely, CBS News, Alton, Illinois.
One other interesting note, it seems that people in Florida remember very well the help that they got from the Midwest after Hurricane Andrew, so now Floridians are volunteering to haul fresh water and supplies to the areas in the Midwest being hit by flooding. Meanwhile, in Japan, all efforts tonight are focused on a tremendous earthquake. 36 people are dead at this point, but at least 100 more are missing. The quake hit just after 6 this morning, our time. It measured 7.8 on the Richter scale, and that ties the strongest quake in Japan ever. Hundreds of homes, as you see, exploded in fire, and the quake and its aftershocks triggered tidal waves that swept even more houses into the sea. If you know Japan at all, the quake was centered about 50 miles west of Hokkaido, the 3rd most populated island. Much of northern Japan has been affected by fire, by tidal waves, and/or the landslides, and all of this related to the quake. It was, however, not felt in Tokyo. Another major international story tonight happening in Somalia. An angry mob took out its frustrations on journalists, and the results were deadly. And that action sparked by another UN raid. That's the headline tonight as we check the world in a minute. In Mogadishu, UN troops attacked the compound of Somali warlord Mohammed Aidid. Aidid's forces saying 73 people died, though there's no confirmation of that. The backlash proved deadly. 2 news photographers were killed, and 2 members of a TV crew are feared dead after angry Somalis shot and beat them. Tensions are high in Baghdad once again. UN's weapons inspectors denied entrance at 2 Iraqi missile testing sites. The U.S. is warning Iraq faces, quote, serious consequences, but no word whether that means another bombing raid. Another deadly day in Sarajevo. A mortar shell slams into a crowd waiting for water. A dozen people were killed. Water mains have been out in Sarajevo for more than a month now. Serbian forces are blamed for the attack. And in North Korea, the remains of 17 American servicemen are returned, all thought to have died 40 years ago in the Korean War. The remains of 8,000 more Americans could still be in North Korea. And that's the world in a minute. Coincidentally, this comes a day after President Clinton left South Korea. He's spending a couple of days with his family right now in Hawaii. This is a stopover after the summit in Tokyo, and we're told that he'll be back at the White House on Wednesday. Now there's much more ahead on News 10, including a recall that we have to tell you about on some infant car seats. Also, a record-breaking weekend at the box office led by the novel-turned-movie The Firm. Plus, a look at this video of a woman who is goofing around with a whale, but wait until you see what happens when the whale decides to get a little bit rough. Harry, what's up?
How hot can it get this time of the year, and how close will we get? I'll have the full story in just a couple moments.
And before we leave you, once again, the numbers to vote in our Tell 10 poll on gun limits. We'll be right back.
Public notice, RV buyers. The RV Expo Super Sale will be at Cal Expo, Gate D, from Friday, July 16th through Sunday, July 25th only, from 10 to 9 p.m. The first showing of the 1994 RV. All 93 models will be selling out at incredible prices. Bid on row after row of new and used diesel pushers, Class A and Class C motorhomes, fifth wheel, and trailers. Get financing on the spot from bankrupts on the premises. The RV Expo Super Sale at Cal Expo, Gate D, July 16th through 25th. Free parking, free admission. Don't miss it.
I'll never forget it. It was the big game. And it was all up to me. Go for it, go for it. For years, I've been wishing I'd swung at that pitch. Hit or miss, at least I'd have given it a shot. So if you're a guy who wants to find out more about Rogaine with minoxidil, whether it's for you, don't just stand there with a bat on your shoulder. Find out about it.
To find out about Rogaine topical solution, call 1-800-866-4443, and Upjohn will send you an informative brochure about Rogaine. And because only a doctor can prescribe Rogaine, they'll even send you a list of local doctors who can help you decide about it.
If you'd like to find out more about Rogaine with minoxidil, don't stand there with the bat on your shoulder. Make the call now.
Lost, little boy?
You're in the wrong place, man.
To Victor, this isn't just a drawing, it's a cry for help. Listen to the children. Learn to protect them from drugs and violence. Call now and take a bite out of crime.
We have a drive-by shooting to tell you about that has just happened, so we're just learning about it. Also, apparently, it seriously wounded 2 brothers. These are the pictures our crews just returned with. Police say a gunman fired 5 shots into a house on Harris Street in North Sacramento. 2 men inside were hit. You saw they are both seriously injured tonight. One was life-flighted to the UCD Med Center. Witnesses say the shooting is probably in retaliation for an ongoing dispute between the suspects and the 2 brothers. So far, no one has been arrested in this case tonight. Emotions are running high again in San Jose as the abortion showdown continues with Operation Rescue in town. 37 members from Operation Rescue were arrested for blocking a Planned Parenthood clinic tonight. Once again, pro-choice demonstrators outnumbered anti-abortion forces. More protests are expected tomorrow. All of you with young children need to know about this. A number of child restraint seats are being recalled because they may be unsafe. They are the following Renalux brands: GT2000, GT4000, 5000, and 7000. The seats being recalled were manufactured between January of '92 and January 31st of '93. What needs to be fixed is the thickness of the padding in the seat. So if you own one of these car seats, you can call the manufacturer at 800-206-4400. The company says it will supply a kit for you to correct the problem yourself. Well, you might remember a few months back when Sears announced that it was shutting down its catalog operations. This was at the end of an era and a bit sad passing for many people. But as Dan Kennedy of the Business Journal tells us, there's a definite silver lining in this case.
The Sears catalog was as American as Main Street. But last winter, Sears discontinued their catalog and announced they were closing all 5 Sears catalog stores in the Sacramento area. It was a shock for the independent Sears store owners, but now there's good news. The company says 4 of the 5 stores will stay open as retail outlets in Woodland, Auburn, Placerville, and Grass Valley. The Daveison catalog store has closed for good.
People prefer to shop in their local stores here, it seems, rather than driving into Sacramento, and we're not able to satisfy all those needs, but I think generally it's going to be a good situation.
Mostly they're selling appliances, electronics, and lawn and garden equipment. In a lot of the little towns around Sacramento, it's hard to find some of these things. The small town customers are slowly finding out about the change. As for the Sears corporate office, they tell us they're happy to keep the Sears name on Main Street America. For News 10, this is Dan Kennedy of the Business Journal.
Thanks, Dan. And by the way, the Sears catalog had been around nearly 100 years. Its heyday, of course, in the 1950s and the 60s. Speaking of big business, the summer movies took in new records at the box office this past weekend, $100 million total. Tom Cruise keeping a firm grip at the top. The firm collected about $18 million for a 12-day take of more than $74 million. Jurassic Park ran close behind at second with $15.5 million. Clint Eastwood's latest, In the Line of Fire, shot to third, a $15.4 million grab. Clint's biggest opening weekend ever, by the way, and the romantic comedy Sleepless in Seattle, keeping viewers wide awake at fourth place, $10.4 million. Finally, the new comedy Rookie of the Year got a solid base hit, taking fifth, an estimated $8.9 million. Harry Stockman coming up next with his weather forecast. We'll see if things are going to cool down anytime soon. Also, the incredible story behind this incredible videotape. A pilot whale taking a woman for a dive that she is never going to forget. And here's your final chance to vote in tonight's Tell 10 poll on gun limits. We'll have the results coming up when we come back.
On the next Cops.
That's bad. They proned him out and then executed him. Everybody get back up on the sidewalk!
5 men are slaughtered on the streets of L.A.
Apparently they chased the people through the parking lot here. They got a hit with AK-47.
Right.
Now police move in to put together pieces of a grisly puzzle.
But it looks like a 308, which is pretty consistent with with an AK-47.
It's a real-life murder mystery on Cops. Tomorrow at 7:30 on Channel 10.
In the last 2 years, the use of seatbelts has saved an estimated 18,000 lives. If buckling up can save so many lives on the road, imagine what it can do on the water. Boat smart. Buckle up. It can save your life.
News 10 at 6 with Alan Frio and Beth Ruyak. Honored as Sacramento's first Emmy Award-winning newscast. It's a standard of excellence you'll find on every edition of News 10.
Hello, Insider. Have I got a hot tip for you?
Hello, Insider. Check out what they're spending our tax money on now.
Only one man knows the truth, the insider, Tom Marshall. With tips from friends like you, he's found something amiss in our halls of government.
He'll find that fat cat just spending to spend. The budget is bulging, he's there with a pen. The Insider.
The Insider.
Nobody can catch him but you. Only on News 10 at 6.
Well, people do ask that we not editorialize about the weather, but considering what else is going on in the rest of the world, we are lucky.
We have great weather.
Yeah,
I was just looking at the record book, so I'd have something to talk about. You know, 111 is a record for today, and the hottest it's ever been, in not only this month, but any time in Sacramento for the downtown station is 114.
Oh, we were nowhere near that.
We were nowhere near that, and we're not going to be near that, so...
Good.
There. It's just going to be boring and nice for the next few days. Let's take a look at the current conditions now in Sacramento. It's 71 degrees. The wind's out of the south-southwest at 6. We have just a trickle of a sea breeze. The barometer 29 8/10 inches and rising, and the humidity about 46%. I like boring weather, don't you, when it's pleasant? They don't have boring weather in other parts of the country. They got some stormy weather back in the Mississippi Valley again for tomorrow. Incredible. High pressure in the Pacific really is keeping all the stormy weather out of here. Of course, it's pretty typical to have quiet weather this time of the year for us. And we are getting just enough of a sea breeze, and the air aloft is not hot enough so that we're not getting into those 100s. So we've been enjoying some really good weather here. Temperatures will be in the 90s again tomorrow, and low 90s at that. Very pleasant weather. And here's what's happening nationally, though. Tomorrow, look at this. We have another storm moving right into the area where they don't need moisture. You know, it always seems to be the case. It's a distribution problem around the world. Some areas stay dry, too dry. Other areas get too wet. Well, here's the wet one right here. More rain forecast along the Mississippi Valley areas. All those 4 states from Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri are going to continue to have problems. 97 will be the high tomorrow in Dallas. Look at this. Nice change. 89 in New York City instead of the 100s they had last week. They finally cooled off. Well, they're already chilly along the coast, and tomorrow in San Francisco, 67 will be the high. Night and morning fog and low clouds, and a little bit of that air will trickle right on through the Carquinez Straits into Vacaville and Fairfield, with 84 in Fairfield, 86 in Vacaville, and low 90s up and down the valley till you get to Modesto, about 94, still not too bad. Here's the foothills, mostly 90s except an 87 up in Nevada City. Good weather. And for the Sierra Nevada, 78 at Tahoe, 79 Truckee, 86 in Yosemite. Can't ask for better weather. Fair tonight for us, 59 the low, 91 the high. And your extended forecast, nothing, well, everything actually boring here. Boring, typical summer weather. No record set, but I don't think there are too many people complaining that it's not going to be 114.
Thank goodness you're so interesting. You just saved the whole thing. Thanks,
Okay.
Harry. This next story falls under the category of you've got to see it. A frightening experience for a diver. This was during the filming of an underwater movie near Hawaii. It starts with a beautiful scene as you see a woman and a huge pilot whale swimming together. She even appears to be petting the whale in the water, and then the whale decides to play rougher. He grabs the woman by the leg. You can see she's taken down about 40 feet underwater, struggling to break free before her air gives out. Then the whale seems to realize that something is going wrong. He swims her right back up to the surface again. Luckily, through all of that, she only suffered a minor cut on her thigh. The filmmaker who caught all this on tape is facing a fine right now. Authorities say he was harassing the whale, and he might pay a fine of up to $10,000 for the whole episode. Well, we'll be back in a minute. Check these numbers. Maybe you've won a few thousand.
Here are today's specials at Worthington Chevrolet. Now, if you see one you like, give us a call. We'll hold it for you. Look, here's an 89 Olds, a Cutlass Sierra, just $49.95. And here's an 88 Buick Century, just $59.95. Here's an 86 Ford Taurus wagon, only $49.95. And here's a 90 Chevy Lumina, just $69.95. Here's an 89 Toyota Camry, $69.95. Here's an 88 Chevy Astrovan, $69.95. Here's a 91 Ford Explorer, just $10,995. Here's a 90 Ford Ranger pickup, just $69.95. Here's an 89 Ford Aerostar, just $79.95. And here's a 91 Plymouth Voyager, just $99.95. And we're having a big sale on van conversions. If you're looking for a new van conversion or a used van conversion, come to Worthington Mitsubishi and Worthington Chevrolet. Worthington Mitsubishi, Worthington Chevrolet on Ford Road, open till 10 every day.
Hey, it's summer in the city. Looking for family fun this summer? Grab your kids and take off to the city of Sacramento for events and activities that everyone can enjoy. In the pools, at the golf courses, in the museums, the theater, and the zoo, it's the sounds of summer. And you don't have to leave town to enjoy summer in the city. Made possible by the Sacramento Bee, sponsored in part by Y92 and KXTV. Call the Summer in the City hotline now at 448-4FUN and get your free calendar today.
Was very happy. The man was happy.
You know, learning to read is a little scary.
For all the balloons. And then George,
But we worked at it,
man, climbed.
and it got to be kind of
What a
fun.
nice place for George to live.
Let's try it again.
Billy is 7, and he fights illiteracy. Call to learn how you can help in your community. Do something good. Feel something real.
Want to let you know about the results of tonight's Tell 10 poll. We asked, should more types of weapons be banned in California? Here are the results this evening. 37% saying yes, 63% saying no. We want to remind you the poll is not scientific. It's just a sampling of results. And Stuart's here Starting, I guess, with a story that's really crossing all lines, news, sports, everybody concerned tonight.
The Allison family really has had it tough. Bobby Allison a couple of years ago almost died in a car crash. Davy's brother did die in a car crash. And tonight, Davy is just hanging on by a thread. Davy Allison races stock cars for a living. He's one of the leading drivers in the NASCAR circuit. Tonight, he's in very critical condition following a helicopter crash. Allison was the pilot in the helicopter that went down in the infield of the Talladega Speedway. He had just received clearance to fly helicopters on Sunday. Allison had won the NASCAR event in Richmond, Virginia this March. He has 19 NASCAR Winston Cup victories to his credit, including the 1992 Daytona 500. He finished third in this weekend's race in New Hampshire. No baseball games to report on tonight. We're in the All-Star break. Actually, there was one game at the All-Star festivities in Baltimore, the Heroes of the Game contest featuring stars of the past. Here's the winning blast, Joe Rudy's 3-run homer off Gaylord Perry to give the American League old-timers a 4-2 victory. And the biggest cheer for this defensive play. Remember Brooks Robinson? He starts the 5-4-3 double play. From the stars of the past to the stars of the present, the home run derby and Barry Bonds hitting 5 out of Camden Yards for the National League. But the American League dominates. Ken Griffey Jr. becomes the first player to actually hit the warehouse beyond the right field fence. And the big winner, Juan Gonzalez, who crunches a total of 12 home runs, including 5 in a playoff against Griffey. Juan Gonzalez, your home run derby champ for 1993. And your winner of the Celebrity Home Run Challenge, no, not Bill Murray, that all-around star, Michael Jordan. He didn't hit a homer, but did score the most points. The only home run hit by a celeb, this one to right field by Magnum P.I. himself, Tom Selleck. Of course, the big game, the 1993 All-Star Game, is coming up tomorrow in Baltimore. Pre-game festivities start at 5 o'clock, the All-Star Game at 5:30, right here on Channel 10. Well, the sports world saying goodbye to one of the great players in baseball. The funeral for Hall of Famer pitcher Don Drysdale held in Glendale today. Drysdale died of a heart attack a week and a half ago at the age of 56.
The tragedy of life is in what dies inside a man while he lives. And there was only life in Don. Don lived a complete game. And it was a victory.
Drysdale leaves a wife, former basketball star Ann Myers, and 4 children. The Tour de France has a new leader, and a familiar one he is. Miguel Indurain, the 2-time defending champ, dominates stage 9, his specialty an individual time trial. The victory puts Indurain in the overall lead, over a minute and a half ahead of Eric Brukink. The Tour takes a day off tomorrow before heading into the Alps on Wednesday. And finally, we head to Rancho Murrieta, where Team 10 spent the afternoon, Senior Gold Rush Media Day, and a chance to chat with defending champion Bob Charles. So what's the secret, Bob?
To win a tournament, an event such as this, you've got to have 3 days of good putting.
Well, speaking of good putting, Danny Elliott shows you how it's done right here. The Rayleigh Senior Gold Rush, the week of October 11th at Rancho Murrieta.
That's all you need, 3 days of good putting, huh?
That's all it takes.
That's the secret. You heard it right here from Stuart. Can you do that?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? It's the driving and the iron shots that give me a problem.
Yeah, we have to ask Michael Jordan. He's been everywhere lately.
He certainly has.
Thanks, Stuart.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow.
This is the story of 2 houses. 4 years ago, the Jones house was painted and patched. In the same year, the Sterling house had beautiful vinyl siding from Sears installed. Today, the stucco on the Jones house is fading and cracking. But the Sterling house with vinyl siding from Sears looks as good as the day it was installed. If you want to enhance the beauty of your entire home, or if you have a brick home with just hard-to-paint eaves and overhangs, do it right with maintenance-free vinyl siding from Sears. And do it now, because if you're a homeowner and you call now, you'll receive a free home inspection and estimate. Call now to find out how Sears siding improves the look and helps increase the value of your home. Our siding comes in a rainbow of colors, guaranteed never to peel or crack. It's installed over a full layer of genuine Dow styrofoam insulation underlayment, and it's designed to stand up to the elements, winter after winter, summer after summer. Call now. And all you'll ever need to keep your home looking great is a garden hose. Compare that to the pain of painting every few years. And remember Sears' commitment to getting the job done right. In short, you'll never have to look at a paintbrush again. Call now for your free in-home estimate. So if you want your home to look fresh and new year after year and enjoy big savings, Don't pick up a paintbrush. Pick up a phone and call for your free estimate now.
Call 1-800-847-4400 right now and arrange for your free in-home estimate on siding from Sears. Now's the time to make your home look like new. Call 1-800-847-4400. Sears installed home improvements have over 1 million satisfied customers and counting. Call now. 1-800-847-4400. That's 1-800-847-4400.